It is time for Star Trek Universe, and in this episode we discuss Discovery 504, Face the Strange, after these words from our mystery Krenim chronophages.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on two lifelong friends chat about Star Trek. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Roberson.
Dave, how you doing, buddy?
I'm here. I'm, slugging along, trying to get everything I need to get done.
Yeah.
Accomplished.
Same. I got a lawnmower this week.
Yeah.
For the first time, I'm trying an electric lawnmower. Better for the environment. You don't have to get oil changes. You don't have to go get gas. You just charge up a battery. And I bought 3 batteries thinking I'd be able to hot swap them in and keep it going and finish the whole yard. And no, I know I haven't been able to do that.
No.
Possibly the technology isn't there yet.
It's not.
Each battery gives me 15 minutes and I have a pretty big yard. So I kept having to pop them out, pull them out. The problem is when you pop them out, they're too hot to charge. They get too heated. So then I have to wait 30 minutes. So by the time I can charge the first one I was using, I'm already done with the other 2 batteries. It's a real bummer. Yeah. So, but I did order 2 more batteries. All right, well, I guess I'm just gonna get more batteries and see if I can yeah. So, I wish we had Star Trek technology is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I used to have a weed eater that you could plug in, and that was cool, except, you had to...
Yeah, you're on a leash.
You had to be plugged in, which sucked for the
Yeah.
outskirts of the yard.
I will say the weed eater used a lot less power. I ordered the mower there was a deal on Amazon that came with a weed eater and a hedge trimmer and whatever. And I just ordered the package or whatever. And so the weed eater seems like it lasts a while. So that's cool.
Yeah. We have battery operated weed eater and blower maybe and hedge trimmer thing. And man, they conk out so quick. It's just, Jesus Christ.
Well,
Jesus Christ.
I know that I just meant to mention this and move on, but I feel like the cool thing is the batteries with this one, about all the same brand. So, they all came as a package, all the same brand. So I can actually use the mower batteries, which are 30 times larger, more battery capacity. I can use that on the weed eater. Because it's the same battery, size and everything, and voltage. It just has a lot more capacity, and so I can use it, and then it will last. I don't even know. I have no idea. I think it would last a long time.
Yeah, I wish they were more like my drill battery. I think I last charged that in 1972.
It just depends on how much you're drilling, man.
I don't drill a whole lot, but it's always ready for me. I don't know. This is magic.
I've had that too. And I basically, I have a bad habit. I buy a drill, charge it up, and then it takes so long to need to charge it that I lose my charger. And then it's time, and then I just buy a new drill. I've done that 5 times over the course of my life, where it's going through a season of needing to drill things, moving apartments, moving houses, stuff like that. And then I buy a drill. That one charge lasts so long, and then I don't know how to charge the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've never lost it. I've always been afraid I was going to, and I just look for the biggest group of spider webs and go, oh, it's got to be under there.
Yeah.
And it always is. It's yes. Because I haven't used it.
Yeah. Well, we watched a Star Trek episode.
We did!
Yeah. What'd you think of this? Was it the 3rd, 4th Discovery episode this season?
4th, yeah.
What'd you think?
I really liked it.
Yeah, it's good.
I thought it was a great episode for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of fun. I mean, there's various kinds of holes I can try to punch in it. But overall, it was the classic sort of somebody's trapped in a loop, somebody's trapped in a temporal problem, nobody else knows what's going on thing, which is always kind of fun. The whole you have 14 minutes to solve the problem. Oh, next time you're gonna have 8 minutes. It was good. There was enough flexibility that made it fun. I did feel So there's been a lot of time with, is it Rayner? Captain Rayner? Commander Rayner now? They've spent a lot of time with him this season. And I do feel like if they knew it was the final season when they were writing this season, they probably wouldn't have made the first 4 episodes so Rayner focused.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It feels like they're trying to introduce a new character into the cast, which is what they're doing. So they're spending all this time with him. Or maybe he's just a character that's going to, they need for this season. Either way, it's the final season. We've got, 12 episodes, 13 episodes? Do we know?
The actor did 10 episodes, and the actor did say that he was supposed to come back for season 6, and he was going to be a main character.
Okay. Yeah, it just feels like you got 10 episodes total, and you use 4 of them to really focus on a brand new character in your final season. It feels like they would have made a different decision if they'd known this was their last chance to make these stories. And I mean, like, not like they're not getting time with other things, other characters, and it's not like they're not, having some shared time in each episode, but like, it's a lot of Rayner time.
Yeah, it is a lot of Rayner time, and I liked what we got of him. And I'm going into this like knowing that they didn't know it was their final season, so I'm willing to give them some grace on that.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I don't mind what they're doing with him. It's just I want them to wrap up the characters and storylines that we've been dealing with for 5 seasons. I
agree, but then again, maybe they wouldn't have changed anything, because that is one of the things that Discovery does a lot of, is bring in new characters and still just ignore all these other characters that have been on the crew.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I really liked this episode. Just starting off, man, I love that the episode is called Face the Strange, and that they focus so much on, like, by way of showing us the past, like showing us how much the characters have changed, the ones that we know very well anyway. Mm-hmm. And, all the crazy different stuff that's gone on during Discovery. And of course, Face the Strange, and it being about changes, they're referencing the David Bowie song Changes. Changes, face the strange.
Okay. I didn't know
I love that.
Got it.
I love that. Cool. I
didn't even know the title until you said it when we got on.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that. I know that song, but I didn't know those lyrics, so that's cool.
Yeah, if you if you really want me to like an episode of anything, make the title of a Bowie reference, and I'll probably like it a lot more.
It's a good first impression.
It is, but I love the brutality of Mock and Lal. Maul and Locke. Dyslexic that right up. Mm-hmm. I love that they're looking for freedom, and that the writers chose to show like a real relatable sweet moment with them as the after effects of one of their most brutal moments was playing out. Like they're hugging and kissing and talking about being free, and this poisoned dude is like grasping at his ankle. Yeah,
it's a really great way to show who their characters are, because like they are people, they have their own like desires, they're not completely mustache twirly, but they're like having that moment over a dying man, which she did say he was one of these men who like had caused her childhood to be so bad, like the way he worked at the Emerald Chain or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so like it was a revenge thing, but still like it is brutal. Definitely a bad guy and a brutal move to be like making out over the site of your revenge as they're wheezing their last breath.
Yeah, she's still got to become a good guy, Stu.
I do still think there's room for that, if they expand the way, like, the knowledge of what happened to them, and, like, we see some of the reasons she is the way she is, and give her a chance for redemption, a chance to turn around. But yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Did you catch what the Krenim, that it was a Krenim chronophage, that the little spider was of Krenim technology?
No.
So the Krenim were from Voyager's Year of Hell. Huh. They were the bad guys who kept resetting time, and that whole Year of Hell was because of them. So, and then we have this bit where Rayner says that the Krenim, this is a holdover from the Temporal War.
Interesting.
And I love that the Krenim are involved in the Temporal War. It just makes me want a Temporal War show so bad.
Yeah. That's cool, dude. No, I didn't catch that. That's rad.
Also, I feel like this episode reminded me a lot of one of Voyager's final season episodes called Shattered, where Chakotay was popping back and forth through time, going to some of their more, seminal missions and shit.
Oh, yeah.
The years.
That's cool. I didn't recall that episode. I thought this was a pretty cool way to do it, especially, again, knowing it's the final season, kind of wanting to see how they're going to wrap things up, getting a chance to visit how the beginning was, and early Michael Burnham. And I really liked the Calypso references in this episode.
Yeah.
The fact that Zora likes that kind era of music or whatever. So are we supposed to presume that timeline that they're trying to stop now is the Calypso timeline? Or is this a different time that they were going to leave the ship and leave it alone?
It might be a separate alternate future. It also might be that Calypso never actually happened and that it was just one of Zora's dreams because she was like, am I dreaming? Is this a dream?
Yeah, that's true.
Either way, you can headcanon it.
Sure, I guess. But that's kind of weird for us to see the episode through that character's eyes. I'm forgetting the name of the character. And then it'd be her dream. It seemed like that was really happening. And I don't know, just this episode showing that as a possible future for Discovery, having Zora have that intelligence and everything. It just seems like that's a real thing that it did happen in some version of the timeline,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's some alternate future where that happened.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm just curious if, what they're telling us with this episode, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Discovery was it was in where was it? Do you remember? I thought it was circling a star or something.
I don't remember. I haven't watched it since it came out. I know it was, borderline derelict and about to die.
Right. I couldn't remember if it being in the middle of a destroyed Federation headquarters, sort of swirling with other trash, made any sense, or if it would have to drift away from that somehow or something.
Yeah, I thought maybe it had drifted away, but I'm not sure. Okay. I don't remember.
Cool.
It was also written by Michael Chabon, and he's not even doing anything with the franchise anymore at this point.
Well, sure, but it clearly, with this episode and then with other little moments they've shown us, I feel like they are still keeping in mind Calypso,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've done several little things to push that.
For sure.
Mentioning the Vidraish and whatnot, yeah. I thought this was a good use of the plot to prove that Raynor is wrong about how connection can be used as a strength.
Sure.
It was a little heavy-handed.
I actually think it's kind of terrible for that. Because it's like, yes, connection was used in this episode, but only in a very specific time travel scenario where you need to prove you are who you are. You know what I mean? That's not showing it every day-to-day mission it's needed. I mean, this is Star Trek. It's not like this is the first time something like this has been needed, but it's still look, you better be this kind of captain. You might get trapped in a time paradox. You know what I mean? It's a weird reason. It's. I don't think that's a good use of it. A good reason to show that, but it does show. I mean, that's what they were going for. I just think it was kind of heavy-handed. You said, and that might be the word for it. I don't know. It just feels like it's a situation specifically designed for that resolution, which is an episode of television. That's how they write them. But we need to get there. We need to show that we need to show Raynor that connection is important. How do we do that? Oh, well, it feels but that's what it feels. It feels like an episode engineered to show that rather than them going through a variety of common situations where that's shown to be important,
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how they would have turned it around given that it just feel overall very engineered to lead here.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't make sense to me that Rayner would be this kind of guy who's like, I don't need to have personal connections with my crew. I'm above them. So, I mean, taking the show for what it is, like, as a Starfleet captain, there's like, you need to, and it was something Picard struggled with.
Yeah.
Not having a personal connection to his crew. And then you see in the last episode, he's like, I should have done this years ago, like playing cards and actually being, present with his crew.
Right.
And Rayner is very much like a much more jaded version of that, where he's like, I don't need to know these people. It messes it up if there's too much connection, and it dulls logical command decisions and all these things. But Discovery has always been very much in the vein of we need to be a family more than we are a functioning Starfleet crew.
Yeah.
And it's evident throughout the entire show, like, people are much less militaristic, much less going through proper ranking, protocols and whatnot. It's just, I feel like, in a way, this episode is trying to sell the fans on why Discovery is the way it is. Like, they're like, oh, you don't like that we all cry and whisper and have all these really, like, not Starfleet protocol ways of dealing with things, but this is our strength, and this is, like, every Starfleet crew is a family, and we all find our way to being X, Y, and Z and doing the job, and this is our way. I think they're maybe subconsciously, but I doubt it. I think they are trying to, like, make a case to the fans of, this is why this show is a little different. And I'm iffy about it, but I liked the attempt, at least.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think different captains are different. And I don't think, like, I don't think that Discovery, I mean, I don't follow the online conversations like you do, but, like, I don't think of Discovery's issues, if it has them, being that the crew is too soft with each other or too much
Not
like
soft.
a family or whatever. Is that something that's complained about? Like, I guess I don't think of that. Because, I mean, you've to the same thing with Strange New Worlds. Those characters are very close, and the captain has all the, like, young ensigns to his ready room, or, like, to his house to cook for them and stuff. Like, he's the opposite of Picard as well, but we don't have that complaint over there.
Yeah, I know. That's that. Often the same people who will say, I don't like Discovery because, they cry and they like each other and they're not like Starfleet officers, will come back and go like, I love Strange New Worlds. Finally, Star Trek.
Right.
And I'm like,
it's very much the same stuff.
There's some kind of disconnect going on here.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say it, like, because there's a lot of other people probably, I'm sure, thinking it, like, is it just because a female captain versus a male captain? And people are looking at it going like, how cool is Pike? And they're just looking for a reason, and even subconsciously, they're just like looking at it and thinking of it as like, oh, I don't know. The look at these women, female characters being like too emotional, but the male characters can be as emotional as they want to be over on Strange New Worlds. So it's like, oh, how refreshing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's an idea that, like, I think that is for some people, some of it. Yes. I think that is some of it. And then for other people who don't care for it, I think there's an idea that Discovery is very, very sloppy in the storytelling, which it can be.
Yeah. No, that I see. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, is this particular problem of Discovery being too connected and family-like, is that talked about amongst fans? Because I haven't heard that, but
it is to some degree. Like, it's also like, I think there's more discourse about how the show is kind of sloppy and just lets Michael run around and fix everything,
sure,
through like crazy action and stuff.
Yeah,
I think there's more complaints about that, honestly. But I kind of feel like Discovery writers might just be kind of going like, no, it's just because of this. Or, like maybe they're kind of cherry picking what they think the fans are really having a problem with.
Sure. It sucks because, like, clearly racism and sexism play into these issues of, like,
absolutely,
fan reaction. Obviously. And even, like, people from outside the fandom will come in and, like, throw those racism and sexism allegations or, like, little bombs into the show. Like, you see it all the time. Various, like, basically like right-wing pundits will be like, look how woke this is getting, and they don't even watch the show. They're not fans of the thing. They'll be like, look at this game, it's going all woke, and it's like, no, they just have a female protagonist. It's like, what's your problem? Like,
absolutely,
the problem is with you, buddy. But that is also a really bad crutch to run back to with every criticism. And it's hard, man. It's really hard. I mean, as a content creator, it's really hard to parse through the criticisms of a thing you're making and go like, what's legitimate criticism and what is just like people being mad to be mad? And what is a thing to like hear and internalize and change about your product? And what is a thing to ignore because it's just a hater for any myriad of reasons? They just don't like you. Move on. You know what I mean? It is hard to know. But I hear what you're saying though.
I think a lot of the people who wind up responding to anything about Discovery are like have not watched it in years, and like because I got popped over to Reddit as I saw they had like the little 504 discussion, and there was like nothing of any intelligence there. It was just like, let me guess, Michael saved the day and then cried. I'm like, you haven't watched it since season 1, I would assume.
Right.
So there's a lot of that, I feel like. But
I'm sure people just have like, decided they hate Discovery and then never gone back.
Yeah, that's what it is. People are just have decided universally, as far as like, they're just never like, they're not going to watch. They might watch a trailer, but they're still going to be like, yeah, it looks like the same shit.
Right.
And you can't trust those people. But at the same time, like, I do think Discovery does have legitimate issues.
Sure.
That for some reason, Strange New Worlds figured out how to get around for the most part.
Right. Well, I think that a lot of the issue is the balance between for me. My personal issues with Discovery are it doesn't do as good a job when I look at those two shows side by side. Discovery doesn't do as good a job balancing episodic storytelling and serialized storytelling. It just like it's a little too serialized to the point that like I feel like the big story has so much weight hanging off of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like Strange New Worlds does a little bit better of a job of really nurturing their characters and giving them room to breathe. So that when they get to whatever the big thing is, we care about what those characters are doing, and like there's like a certain amount of emotional stake in it that we don't have with Discovery a lot of the time. And
there's also a lot more trading the story off to different characters. Like I feel like, for as few episodes as we get, we've gotten stories with almost all of the main characters on Strange New Worlds, and Discovery does tend to be like the Michael Burnham show. Like most weeks, very, 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 every once in a while we'll get one of another character, but it seems like more so than other versions of Star Trek,
Yeah, of course, it's easier to just make it about like a couple of characters when you only have so few episodes. When in the original,
100%.
On the old shows, like, they got 22 episodes to fill. Right,
but that's why I'm saying between those two shows, because Strange New Worlds has found a way to do that. But Discovery is trying to do the big overarching story every season, and they want that overarching story to feel earned and to feel like it has stakes, and so they just focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, so I did love this episode. I liked it quite a bit, at the very least.
Yeah, me too.
I do wish that they had Burnham bring up any other damn thing from Ariam's past or character other than you sacrificed yourself.
Yeah, that was a little silly.
And then everyone was like, she wouldn't do that. I'm like, they're Starfleet officers. They all probably would, right?
Right, exactly. I was like, guys, what you're saying is you wouldn't let her, but like, that's like all part of the deal. You're in Starfleet together. You're all like, you will all do that if you need to. And it is sad that it happened to her, but like, it's definitely not any kind of like proof of who Michael is to point at any Starfleet officer and go, one day you will sacrifice yourself for the betterment of humanity. And it's like, but yeah, hopefully any of us would do that. Yeah, that was a silly one. I agree.
Yeah, I feel like Burnham would have, since none of them are going to remember it anyway, and Burnham knows this, so all she'd have to do is pull out the technology, show it to Ariam, and say like, can you, like, this is 32nd century technology where we will all be stranded soon. Can you just like look at that and tell them that this is probably right? Oh yeah, that looks right. That looks like it's not from here.
Yeah, cool. That's true. At that earlier on in the episode, they didn't know that yet. So there were a few sort of forgivable, like them hiding from the other crew members and stuff. But then once Stamets said like, but each loop, we aren't, as long as the last one we fix, like nothing we do will matter, you know? Mm-hmm. Then they're a little free to do whatever they need to do.
Yeah. Now, I was very, very impressed because they moved some of the sets around and made it look like the season 1 and 2 situation.
Yeah.
But there was one glaring error.
Uh-oh.
The freaking Starfleet insignia in the ready room.
Huh.
No matter where they were, it was still the 32nd century Starfleet insignia and not the insignia from the first 2 seasons.
Oh, man, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I was like, you got so close.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah. I don't know. What you got anything else on this episode?
Not really. Feedback? Let's hit the feedback. Let's see what other people are saying. Maybe we'll have some other things be spurred on to talk about.
Cool. Andre Sparks says, episode forward and a look back. I just got to say the best part of the episode for me was seeing young Michael. I forgot how unhinged she was. I love it. Can't wait to see how this episode affects the rest of the season. Keep up the work, guys. Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you, Andre. Yeah, I actually agree. And that's one of the things I loved about the episode was it was very much like Michael facing Michael.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
The whole, like, that was a really nice touch. Michael not believing in herself and being, like they would never, it's that great human condition statement that Star Trek does usually very well, where, to know where we're going, we need to look back and see where we've been.
Yeah.
And to realize that at some point, Michael thought there's no way a mutineer would ever be made captain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She thought her chances were completely over. Plus, it's just always really nice when you get a chance to have characters that have a lot of, like, deeper meaning and, like, a lot of exploration, and then, like, get to see those characters interact. And on Discovery, those are the only 2 characters we've ever had deeply, I'm just teasing. Teasing.
Damn it, Matt. Yeah, but if there's anyone that Michael trusts the least, it's Michael. So I did love that there was that showdown, and I really loved how good it looked.
Yeah, it looked really good.
They took great pains to make sure that, like, you never saw that it was either one of them was a stunt person.
Yeah,
or a stand-in.
I thought that too, except for I think there was maybe one shot. I think it was once she had older Michael or a younger Michael on the ground, passed out. There was one shot where she looked like she was kind of floating over her arms, because it was one of the shots where they put them in the same shot, So that was the only one that I noticed any kind of seams, I guess.
Yeah.
For the most part, though, it was really cool.
Yeah, I dug it.
Yeah, man.
And also, like, can I just say that I loved Stamets in this episode?
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm in a mood, get the hell out. And yeah, I was grumpier then.
They got out faster that time. They were more scared of your grumpiness than they are, like, spores in their lungs.
Yeah, and I'm so... It's so silly, and it was borderline stupid, but it made me laugh when he was like, I'm actually really concerned that my crew doesn't know that there is no, like, spore drive leak or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
me too. That was really funny.
It's like, oh, God. You should know that's not a real thing.
Yeah, it's great. I really did think that was really funny.
Timothy Castillo writes in, where we're going, we don't need warp speed. Hope you're well, Dave and Matt. Life is crazy. This was a really wild use of time travel technology, not by the show, but by Malin Locke. It seems like it could have had enormous ramifications beyond just trapping a single ship for a while. It's definitely interesting, but Burnham and Commander Captain could have, potentially, stopped the Discovery from traveling to the future, or at least to the proper time, or they could have accidentally given Control more advanced tech. Overkill for a trap, in my opinion, especially if you want to definitely maintain the chronological status quo.
Well, just to respond to that, I do think there was they had that one line where they said, like, no matter what they do, it'd be reset or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that you kind of get away with that. Like, well, they did say, like, as long as we get this one thing done, it'll all reset. So I don't really know what that was about. Like, I don't understand fully, but
yeah. I think it's probably going to be reset, back to the normal timeline anyway. The point of it is to trap them in their own timeline. Like, if they wanted to go back in time and stop them from traveling to the future or whatever, it would change their future as well. So, if you're like, I want my life to be the same, except they can't, well, we're just trying to hold them up so that we can do a thing.
Yeah. And I agree. Yeah. I agree with Tim that I think that, like, it's overkill for a trap either way.
It is, like, but it's cool.
It is very cool. It is very cool. And again, like, it goes to that, like, thing we were talking about earlier. It's like the conceit of the episode and why they did it this way. And it's like, well, they wanted a reason to explore, and, like, what are our tools on the board? Well, it could be something Maul and Locke did causes them to go through time. Well, how would that work? And then they, like, create this device. You know what I mean? Like, the writing of this episode feels very contrived to me, but, like, I still enjoyed it, but it's just a little contrived.
Yeah. Tim continues, so Adira and Gray broke up. Do you remember that? Just thought we'd check in on that. They seem like good buds now. Gee golly.
Yeah.
I liked the scene because you had something for everybody looking back on who they'd been at some point. For the most part.
Oh, I gotcha. So you think that was the chance to get Adira in there?
Yeah, I mean, that's where the spider came from.
Yeah, that's true.
So we had to see where that came from or where that was going, how it came, but I like the fact that, like, with the episode being thematically, like, facing the strange of change.
Yeah. And, well, I to me, last week I spoke about how, like, when you have characters and you're scared to give them, flaws because there's of certain representation, like, and I do I felt that this week. Like, we were talking about how their breakup was a little too perfect. Or a little too, like, lacking in conflict. Then to have them reintroduced on the ship, and it's just like, hey, by the way, not only did we go through that well, but we're also still good buds. It's great that we're staying in touch. It's like, it felt a little bit like a little more of that to me.
Well, yeah, to me, it felt like Adira very much having a hard time and trying to put on a brave face. And facing the strange, even though the strange of change, as it were, but also being heartbroken. Like, Adira gets off the, for lack of a better, they get off the phone and then goes and like just stares at an old picture of them.
Yeah.
And you can see the hurt and that this was not what Adira wanted.
I'd have to go back and kind of rewatch that scene because I did not take that away. I thought she kind of smiled.
It smiled, but it was like You
think it was like a pained smile?
Yeah, it was like the smile of remembering good times and missing those good times.
Interesting. I don't think I took it that way. I think I took it as like, look how good we are still. Like, look at the relationship we had and how it's still a strong friendship. Like. Yeah, I did not see the pain in her eyes, but maybe I missed it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just took it a certain way.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Tim says, I love the Burnham v. Burnham fight, and it made a lot of sense to me that the person she would trust the least would be herself. Hey, Tim. I like this episode overall. Hey. I thought it was a cool bit of time travel trouble, and we got to know more of Commander Captain. I wish the bridge scene with Arium didn't exist so that the scene between Commander Captain and Reese could breathe a little more, because there's a good reason that Commander Captain, that's Raynor, y'all, doesn't know anything about these people, but Burnham should know these people really well, and I don't feel like her scene with the bridge crew is convincing. The Arium stuff felt forced. She is definitely into killing herself for the crew, though, contrary to popular belief. Yeah, I do agree. Like, I feel like, I feel like there should have been some more stuff that, like, she could have brought up other than, that any of them could have brought up other than, you like Constitution class starships.
well, for Raynor, that was all he knew. Like, that's what Raynor was. So for Raynor, that made sense. Like, he had like weaker evidence than she did. But I thought the Burnham stuff was good, except for the Arium thing. And I feel like the Arium thing was just to give a little more like
emotional oomph.
Yeah, emotional oomph and like tribute to that character and her sacrifice. And like her in her last appearance here, but it doesn't make sense. It's just that classic thing of like choosing to have a character moment. So like, okay, I am all about having character moments. Like, I love that in media. All your moments should be character moments, but you still have to follow the rules of the universe you're setting up. You know what I mean? Or it's like you can't play the game if you're not going to play on the board,
Yeah.
And like, so in that situation, she needed to convince Arium that she knew her, and so she used the thing from her future, which doesn't make any sense. Like, so it's sort of that thing of just like this, we want a deeper character moment, so we're going to ignore the actual rules of the situation, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I had trouble with that specifically.
Yeah.
Tim says, I am a bit harsh and cynical with a bit of this, but I liked this episode. Stamets was great. It was rough that he had to live through having a hole in his torso again. I laughed when he just yelled at people to get them out of the room. Good idea. Maybe do something similar on the bridge. It was also fun calling back to Voyager with the bug being from the Krenim, even if that doesn't quite seem to add up, maybe. But whatever, 800 years later from Voyager, so plenty of time. Yeah, I think, they've obviously opened gateways, and there are, all sorts of, like the dealer that Mullen Locke killed was from the Delta Quadrant, was from a species from Voyager, so. I'm fine with that. Also, there's been temporal wars. Krenim could have, who knows what's been changed, dude? Who knows? In fact, I would much rather deal with those questions than most of what Star Trek has been doing lately, period. But anyway, last thought, totally thought they had traveled to Calypso. It doesn't seem to be the case, but man, they could have just done that and maybe tied a little bow, and they didn't. But oh well. Yeah, I think they possibly could have. I think they actually may have just said, hey, look, if they beat this season, Calypso doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that and that might still be what they're trying to do. It's just they did not make it very clear. But because I don't remember, I'll have to go back and watch Calypso. I don't remember them being, or like Zora being in the like middle of a destruction field of Federation stuff. Maybe she was, maybe the Discovery was, but I'd have to go back and look. But I thought she was like circling a like sun or something like that.
Maybe. I don't know. I genuinely do not remember. I thought that there was wreckage. Yeah,
I remember wreckage. I thought it was like a bunch of wreckage kind of falling into a gravity well of a star. Is what if that's the case, that could be like what they're going for. They're like, this is right after the destruction, a little bit of destruction, and then much later you get the Eclipso episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that's what they're trying for here, is that like this is where those like two universes diverge in a wood. If you don't get out of this, that's the Calypso dark future,
Yeah.
Which would be tying a bow on it, but I didn't know that it made it clear enough. I need to go back and rewatch that scene.
Yeah. All right, Jonathan Appleby writes in, says, third host, hi guys, I love you both, but would it be possible for you to find a third host that actually likes Discovery? When one of you is meh on the show and the other of you absolutely shits on everything about the show, I don't really know why you chose to have a podcast about Discovery unless it was just for posterity's sake. Just a thought that someone that actually likes Discovery could actually add to the conversation instead of detract from the show/franchise. Again, I love you both. However, I hate that you are forcing yourself to watch things that you hate and not really adding any positivity about the show when there are some of us fans that do enjoy it. I hope this is taken in the constructive criticism that it was intended. Thank you for writing in, Jonathan. I love that you love us.
Yeah. And love
nice.
you back, bud.
Sure.
But I kind of like you. I don't think either of us hate Discovery. No. We are critical of it. It may not be our favorite Star Trek series, so we're critical of it. Not. And it we tend to compare and contrast our favorite Star Trek series, and so we versus this and talk about things that we could like better or worse. But I don't think it's very rare that I hate even an episode of Discovery.
Yeah.
It has its issues, and I'm going to talk about the issues. It's kind of just what you discuss when you discuss a show. We can talk, just about what we liked, but that would be sort of the dishonest way of covering it. We liked the show, and we'd cover it because we like all Star Trek. I think the only thing we've covered on this show that I've ever hated are those weird short animated things they did last year.
Yeah.
Those are the only thing I have ever hated from Star Trek. And not even all of them. Some were funny, but some of them were just downright terrible.
I go into every episode of Discovery looking forward to it and hoping it is the best Star Trek I've ever seen. I do think I like Discovery best, worse or least, whatever, how you want to put that. I dislike Discovery more than maybe most other Star Trek, and I had thought Voyager would hit that mark for me, consistently, and had for decades, but you know what? Going back and looking at Voyager, it wasn't half bad, dude.
Yeah.
I think Discovery is just a flavor I don't love, and I really only have a real issue with it when they keep repeating the same mistakes.
Right. That's our opinion, and this is a show we make, so I hear you. There's a lot of Star Trek podcasts, and if you don't like the way we cover this, there's lots of ones that do cover Discovery, and I'm sure in a very positive light. I think we do talk about what we enjoy. Like this episode, we had almost nothing negative really to say. There were a couple little plot things we quibbled with, but we both liked this episode a lot. I thought it was really great.
But also, I do want to point out that we didn't choose to have a podcast about Discovery.
Yeah.
We have a Star Trek Universe podcast.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about all the Star Trek because it's our favorite franchise.
Yeah, exactly. So Discovery is one of the many shows of the Star Trek universe that we love the Star Trek universe. So it's fun to play in this world and talk about it.
Yeah, and it's fun for us even if we're not liking a thing. It's still fun to talk about like what we would change and how we would change it. And
it's sort of instructive too. Like for watching something that isn't your favorite version of a thing that you love, it's sort of instructive in learning about what you love about that thing. And I've been trying for years to understand more about what I like and what I don't like when it comes to like the balance between serialized and episodic storytelling. And I think Discovery has been one of the most informative things on that like metric that I've ever known. And it's like I've been like watching all kinds of episodic and serialized television. And for years and years, I thought serialized is what I want. Why waste time on episodic, you know? And then I started watching Discovery, and there's just a lot of episodes that don't feel like a full meal. And then I start going like, oh, no, it is important that when I sit down and give a show an hour, they need to give me a beginning, middle, and end. And like Discovery doesn't always not give me a meal. It's just sometimes I feel like completely unfulfilled by some of their storytelling because they're not trying to give me a full story in that hour. They're trying to give me a piece of a larger story, you know? And like, I think if it weren't for Discovery, I would not know that about myself. And so when I'm making a podcast, I'm not making it to necessarily celebrate the thing. Like I don't like hate watching things, but I'm also not just gonna blindly talk about how great it is either. So yeah. Anyway,
I personally don't have time in my life to hate watch things.
Yeah, same.
I'm overwhelmed with all of the stuff I want to get to, and if I hated something, for instance, I do a DC show called DC on Screen. We reviewed like the first 3 or 4 seasons of Lucifer and hated every episode, and that was totally a chore. We have not gone back. Like my co-host has watched the Netflix seasons and said, "Hey, it's everything you wanted it to be when it was on Fox." And I'm like, "Cool. Can't bring myself to watch it yet." I just haven't. So, like, I don't hate Discovery. I want it to be better than it is.
Yeah. I mean, like, seriously, when it's on the TV, it's like one of my top 3 shows that I want to see. You know, this week I've been watching Fallout, and the Planet of the Apes movies for different podcasts. And most of the time I'm podcasting about things that, like, and X-Men 97. And, like, I'm podcasting about things that, like, I want to watch. And that's why I choose to podcast about them. And, like, Discovery, I get that same like excitement about like, oh, there's a new episode up. Yes. Like should I watch it? I want to watch it now. Should I wait till closer to the podcast time so that because I probably won't have time to watch it twice. So do I save it and watch it closer to podcast time, or do I watch it right now? And most mornings I wake up, I'm like, it's up. I'm watching it, you know? Like I watch it for myself. Yeah. I don't watch it because I need to podcast about it, you know?
And also, you know, I know like, we could get a third host who was just like bubbly and all about everything Discovery, but they're not going to have fun here. And we're not going to have fun.
Yeah.
And also, I'm curious though, is this like Jonathan like low key trying to like slip his name into the hat for like a third host position?
That's what because I know you don't always read the feedbacks before you put them in the doc or whatever. And,
I never do.
Right. So I was wondering when it said third host, I was like, is this just a person asking if they can be the third host? Which, like, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't mind. There's an editing cost to 3 people on a podcast. That's one of the reasons I try to do as many with 2 people, because the 3 and 4 person cast just require a lot more editing and take a lot more time and effort. But
speaking of time and effort, it's also really hard for us to get together.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, but it's also like there's this organizational aspect of like trying to plan ahead, which me and Dave are both bad at. And so like we basically just, as soon as the episode comes out, we're like, when can you cast this day? Okay, that day. We don't have any kind of consistency for that reason. Like we're just really busy. But yeah. But no, I hear Jonathan, that he would like a show. Like, I mean, honestly, I really do appreciate you listening, and I do not like want you to go elsewhere for your podcast, your Star Trek podcasts. But like, I get it if you don't like our style of podcasting about Discovery, but like, that's who we are, and that's that's the kind of show we're probably going to make. Like, we're going to talk about it the way we talk about it.
But also to shine a slightly different light on a different angle of this, like, my top 2 Star Trek shows are DS9 and the original series. I love the original series.
Mm-hmm.
I am absolutely head over heels in love with Star Trek the original series. And I don't know if you've listened, Jonathan, I don't know what you want to be called, sorry. Presumptuous on my part there. But like, Effie and I have been doing these rewatches of the original series, and she's never seen them before, and I've seen them a million times. But I'm gonna complain about shit. Like, we talk about like stuff that's silly and doesn't make sense because while I love this franchise, it's also not real. And it's not that damn deep. It's just like, I love this. This part was stupid.
Yeah.
You know?
There are weeks where we get on here and like, I think I'm a little more even keel. Like, I tend to be like, either it was pretty good, it was all right, you know, and you tend to be like, it was great, or I hated it, you know, like you'll get all like, you come on a lot hotter than I do, like we just swing wider on the spectrum or whatever. But I tend to be somewhere in the middle on almost everything, and I'm just either a little in the positive or a little in the negative. And when you're positive, you're way positive. When you're negative, you're way negative.
You know what? I was thinking about that just a second ago. Like, for real, like, you are kind of like TNG, and I am Discovery as people. Because, like, Discovery has, like, no chill. They have no subtlety. Like, either, like, and it's from everything to storytelling to presentation. It's like, they are either, like, pew-pew, action-centric, explosions and shaky cam, or it is a very quiet scene and everyone is whispering and silently weeping. Like, there's very little subtlety with any of the characters. Like, they don't have a lot of nuance. It's just like this, and this. But like, for real, like, I am kind of an extremist sometimes with my feelings about things, like, and it doesn't, like, there's stuff, like, there are times like this episode that we just reviewed where it's like, you know what? Time travel covers a multitude of sins. I love this idea. I love the Krenim chronophages. I love all this shit. So these 2 or 3 little problems in the show, that's not a big deal. I'm okay. That's fine. It's annoying, but it's there, but the episode was pretty good.
Right. You
are more even keeled, but like, if you give me a boring storyline that I don't care about, and then you like fuck up a bunch of stuff, like, I'm going to be like, yeah, that was shit. I don't like that.
Yeah. And a lot of times the things that you find as like big fuck ups, I'm like, it didn't bother me.
Yeah. Well, usually it's those little things that are just like the cherry on top of like a bunch of stuff I didn't like for whatever reason. You're like eating
this terrible shit sundae, and you're like, yeah, I hated the gumballs or whatever. I'm like, I don't think the gumballs were the problem, Dave.
But you know what? It's part of the reason I love doing the show.
Yeah, totally.
Is, you know, I can kind of talk through some of my bullshit about why I didn't like it, and sometimes you pull me back.
Yeah,
and you're like, hey, look at this, and this, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I do think that happens a lot, and I think the opposite happens too. Like, you come in really positive on one, like, and I'll be like, maybe I should be more positive on this. Like, maybe I missed some stuff that I need to like appreciate more. And that happens all the time with podcasting too. Anyway, so
you're like, Jesus Christ, Dave liked it. Oh God.
Even Dave liked it. What's wrong with me today?
But you know, to be fair, we both kind of hated Discovery in the first season, and then when we went back and rewatched it when we started this podcast, we wound up liking it a lot more.
Yeah, we did. We really liked the I don't know if I hated it during the first season, but I don't think I liked it as much, and Yeah, I'm trying to think back how I felt the first time I ever watched it.
I'll also say, though, during that first run, when I first was watching it and it was coming out week by week, even though I really just didn't like it, I still looked forward to it and was giddy every week.
Well, and that was the thing. When it came out, there was no other Star Trek in years, and so it felt like such a big deal to like every week to have a Star Trek episode.
Yeah. It was like if you hadn't dated someone in a really long time, and then you suddenly get into a relationship and you know there's going to be fights and you're going to have disagreements. And they're just things that are going to make you ill. But you're still like, I can't wait to hang out with that person.
That's funny. Okay, what else we got in the feedback? We have. I feel like we have set our piece on this. I'm sorry that we are not exactly what you're looking for there on this thing, Jonathan, and this particular metric, Jonathan. But we do appreciate you listening, and we'll.
But Jonathan, please keep writing in.
Yeah.
Give us your take.
Yeah, tell us why an episode was awesome. If you love an episode, write in about how awesome it was.
Absolutely.
And we'll just completely disagree with you. It's fine. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and also, you never know what's going to happen if you keep writing in. Effie, who is ostensibly the third host of this show, at this point, just was a person who wrote in on my other show, DC on Screen, and we became friends, and I've known her for like 8 or 9 years now, and now she's a co-host on this show and fills in for my other co-host on DC on Screen. You never know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
If you already love us both, just keep writing in, John.
Could end up being a host à toi.
And now I'm rooting for you, Jonathan, just to make Stu Little angry. Stu Little over here trying to be so close to us, trying to convince us that me and him are the same person.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's true. I know it.
Like,
I really do go back and forth. Sometimes I believe him.
No, you want to know how? Beyond a shadow of a doubt, even one of I'm such an egotistical piece of shit. Even one of my separate identities would not correct me on the pronunciation of Glasgow.
Unless you did it just to be corrected, and then, like it was all 4D chess and makes you look stupid, but really the joke is on everyone else. I can headcanon this, Dave. I can headcanon this.
I know you can, but that's mostly paranoid delusion on your part.
Okay, what else? What other feedback we got?
We got Stu Little. Whichever Burnham wins gets to decide on their haircut. Quote, 15 hours ago, Locke and Maul were alive in 2024. What a game-changing reveal. Boo, dad joke. Dad joke.
What? Why was it a dad joke?
15 hours ago, because it says 15 hours ago when we saw the Locke and Maul. They mean 15 hours ago from where Discovery is when we started up with them.
Oh, yeah.
But he's saying 15 hours ago as in 2024.
Oh, like, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that I don't know if that's a dad joke. I think of dad jokes as like puns. That's like a misunderstanding how TV works.
You're right. Well, we've talked to Stu enough to, we know that he's, I don't know.
Yeah, we know he knows how
reasonably cogent.
Yeah, we know he knows how TV works, which is why I feel comfortable giving him a little bit of shit.
Yeah, if there's anything Stu knows, it's how TV works.
It's true.
God help him. God help me, because I know what he's talking about. But I guess I would, because he's
one of your personalities. Yeah.
Yeah. Stu says, really? You're going to transport to the ready room that's right next door instead of walking? Man, you were just like an old person.
Listen, Stu. It was essential for the plot that they be in the transporter at the time.
That's right. But also, why wouldn't you? Why would you, do that awkward walk across, because like, inside of the whole crew's head, they're going, ooh, because it's like, I want to see you in my office now. Okay, shit. No, it's much easier just to hit that transport, man. It's like, we don't need you to do a walk of shame into the ready room.
That's right. That's why this show is so snappy with the editing and everything.
I know. I mean, like on TNG, they would have had like the slow walk into the room, both of them pulling down their tunics.
Oh, absolutely.
Close-ups of the characters looking.
Getting into a chair one way or the other.
Riker throwing his leg over the back of the chair. Stu says, please don't make Rayner a straw man for fans who take issue with how Discovery depicts the crew as overly familiar, emotional, and non-officery compared to other Star Trek shows, because a lot of what he's saying makes sense, and it would be a shame if his arc is just him having to change rather than his different approach bringing something valuable to the ship. I thought it was a missed opportunity that the ship wasn't assigned someone native to this time period in a major role to help them navigate their new status quo. Instead, they just adapted far too quickly, in my opinion. Strikingly similar to one of my issues, but not even an issue, just one of my thoughts. But I do think that Rayner hasn't just been a straw man for that.
Yeah.
Because, everyone brings something different to the table, and they have shown how his different approach, brings something valuable to the ship. If they hadn't, Burnham wouldn't have brought him in the first place.
Yeah.
The way he popped in and helped Tilly and Adira figure out what the hell was going on a couple episodes ago.
Right. Well, and I personally think that it's not about, it's like, I think this thinking he's a analog of the fans of Star Trek is a little too like Star Trek Twitter centric. I think that he is a representative of like just the previous generation and a changing in political times and stuff like that. He's like he's boomer, man. He's just a boomer, and he's like, yeah, you kids and your like need for connection, like what are you doing? You know what I mean?
But he's also right, and they didn't put a button on it, and I like that about this episode. They didn't like hammer that home, but they went to the future. They like, he's been saying for the 3 or 4 episodes that we had that the Breen are mounting an attack. And what do we see? We jump to the future and see like, oh, the Breen destroyed the Federation. Cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Stu continues, I'm half counting this as a clip show. Kind of fair. I would maybe a third count it as one. Stu says, was that a quick and dirty Calypso explanation? I think so.
It seems like it. Yeah. Which I like. I like it a lot.
Yeah. It was a mistake for past Burnham not to grab those dangling braids during the fight. I mean, I don't know.
Starfleet doesn't pull hair.
This is kind of a dirty move, and also it was a lot of shaky cam. She might have. I don't know. Oh God, I forgot all about this. After she's nerve pitched past Burnham, she says it will be a long road, and Stu says getting from there to here.
Yeah. That would have been so funny if she'd said that in a line read that wasn't awkward. Like if there's a way to say that not awkwardly and it's just a great nod to Enterprise, that would be really wonderful.
That actually reminds me of something I wanted to say in reference to the Jonathan email. Was like, dude, I get being the fan who likes something that everyone else hates. Because I really liked Enterprise, and everyone was shitting on it back in the day. Like, you could not find a message board that wasn't just like people complaining about Enterprise and how awful it was. I'm like, no, it was good. It didn't break canon. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So I am sorry if we are that for other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Quote, is fine, she's fine. I nerve pinched her. You know, you do get how that's worse, right? I don't get how that's worse, because the nerve pinch is a pacifistic way of subduing an enemy.
Wait, what? Did someone say you get how that's worse, right?
No, Stu says, because Michael said it's fine, she's fine, I nerve pinched her, in reference to younger Michael. Stu says,
and Stu says,
you do get how that's worse, right?
I also don't get how that's worse.
I do not get how that's worse. That is, like, the nerve pinch was specifically developed by Leonard Nimoy in the original series as a pacifistic way of ending a fight and subduing a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Or an opponent, if you will.
Yeah.
I do not get how that's worse.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Stu. Telling someone they'd sacrifice themselves for the greater good proves you're from the future, and telling the truth? Huh? It came across like that was supposed to be an unusual trait in a Starfleet officer. Yeah, gotta agree with you.
Yeah, we've covered that.
All this time jumping and conveniently no Lorca appearance. A shame. Also, they should have jumped to a time period from like 6 months ago when Burnham was trying out a mohawk or a mullet. You never know. It might be quite stylish in that era. Actually, you know what? I kind of was hoping that they would jump to the previous time loop episode.
Like the whale?
No, the magic to make the sanest man mad or whatever the hell with Harry Mudd.
Yeah, the whale.
I don't remember a whale.
He comes in the whale. They get a whale into the ship, and then Mudd is inside the whale.
Right. I
don't know why I think of it as the whale episode, but that's how I think of it.
If you see a whale, there's time travel in Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'd forgotten all about that. But yeah, I thought it would be fun. I was like, oh man, what if they go back to that episode?
Yeah, I thought the same thing, actually.
And then they didn't.
And like, the one thing I didn't mention that annoyed me about this episode, sorry, Jonathan, was it that's just our new, like, when we started insulting an SE's episode too much. Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Is the idea that, like, Stamets, his mind is outside of time or whatever?
Yeah.
Or, like, unaffected by, like, I remember that, but, like, it seems like a trait that would come into, like, the storylines more often. I don't know. I guess it only really manifests when he's going through some sort of time travel.
I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. Like, otherwise he's still, like, he's not outside of time all the time. He's just unaffected by time, like, anomalies.
He's fine.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, while Michael and Rayner keep their uniforms, for some reason Stamets just doesn't.
Well, no, that's the thing. So, yeah, they did say that. They said that, like, they're actually, like, they're basically beaming in their current state each time it resets. But he is in his current body, just like he wakes up with a hole in his chest.
Right.
He's in his current body, but it's just his mind, similar to the Mudd episode, when he is also unaffected by the time anomalies. His mind, because of his tardigrade DNA, exists outside of the time anomaly somehow.
Okay. Yeah.
But the way she said it this episode made me feel like it's something that should be a weekly thing for him. Like, his mind, she said something like his mind exists outside of time or something like that, which, like, would imply that he's seeing all time at all times, which would make him a completely different human being.
Yeah, no, I don't need him to become Dr. Manhattan.
Right. That's kind of what I was like, is that a everyday thing for him? I thought that was just, like, I don't know, I guess a time anomaly thing, which I guess is what they're saying, but the way she said it sounded weird.
Yeah. It just needs Stamets, like, sitting on the hull as they're going to warp, and he's just like, I grow tired of these humans and the tangle of their lives. Stu says they can fix body parts being rapidly aged to decrepit state. Since when? And to that, I say, since when have we had that issue to even wonder about?
Well, I would say, like, if they can fix that issue, they could also basically de-age anyone.
Yeah, but it's Star Trek, so, like, Roddenberry rules. They grow old, but they value it, and...
Yeah, sure.
Bullshit.
Sure.
Stu says, no, seriously, I feel like we need to go back to explore the hand thing. This seems like a huge...
I thought they were going to leave it like that. And then he would just have to have a messed up hand for the rest of the season. And I thought that was kind of cool, but then they just changed it back, which annoyed me.
Yeah.
I don't like the lack of stakes there.
No, I was fine with it. I kind of wanted it to be like, no... I am always in favor of lopping off a limb and putting some sort of, like, technological prosthetic on.
Yeah.
Because, like, to me, it shows stakes. Like, I wish Picard had, like, straight up lost an arm or something in Best of Both Worlds and, like, would have to have, like, you know, a Nathan Summers cable arm or something. But...
Yeah.
Yeah. But also wanted the same thing for Voyager. Like, I wanted the Voyager to be, like, almost unrecognizable if you'd only seen season 1 by the end of it.
Right. Yeah, I know it.
But yeah, he says, this seems like a huge deal in a franchise that has depicted aging as still a detriment and also has frowned upon taking artificial measures to combat it. Is it just because it's a hand and not a major organ that makes it possible? And how is it done? Gene therapy? Some sort of reverse polarity chronoton saturation? I need more information. You know, I don't. If that's where they're going with it, I'm just like, you know what? I don't need the TNG technobabble explanation. Just, okay.
Yeah.
This was a fun diversion that didn't do much for the overall plot, but did move Rayner's relationship with the crew along a bit, though it was still a bit too much putting the onus on him to change for my liking. I'll also point out Maul was pretty cold-blooded in the opening scene, so maybe she can't be turned good, but come on, this is Discovery. They're not going to have Book fail to make a connection with his quote-unquote sister.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you were talking about it earlier, is it still on the table that should become good? And I'm like, yeah, his, like, because of the Book connection, if nothing else. That's a really good point.
The fake Book connection. But I do disagree. I think Rayner does need to change, because the whole point of Star Trek is that humanity needs to change. So, like, no matter how much we like a character, they need to have some kind of metamorphosis.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's even if not Star Trek, that's storytelling.
Oh, yeah, also that. And for a great example of someone we like who never really changes, I present Harry Kim on Voyager.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah. So we got one more, not about this episode, but Paramount put the 2009 the Kelvinverse prequel movie on the official slate as Star Trek Origin movie.
Yeah.
And Tim Castillo sends us an email. Enter prequel. Could the 2009 prequel be a Jonathan Archer story? God, I wish. Why can't we get anything other than Picard in the time after TNG, DS9, and Voyager? By saying this next stuff, I'm not saying that I don't like the shows out now, but to me, everything so far feels ancillary to whatever is going on with the Federation and Starfleet proper in the years and decades following Voyager. Picard had an interesting perspective, but it raised so many questions, as has Discovery. Am I alone in feeling that the timeline following Voyager is the present timeline? Or do you think Disco is now the present timeline? Or maybe they don't want us to consider the idea of a present timeline. If so, that's kind of a bummer to me, but I guess I'll just have to learn to accept that. Maybe it's just that it felt like Voyager and DS9 left a lot of stories or ideas open and unanswered somehow. Perhaps Prodigy Season 2 will be the outlet for that kind of thing, and if so, I'm looking forward to it. But I'm greedy, and I want more. Am I making sense here? I think you're making some sense.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, because we're old dogs, as Rayner would say,
Mm-hmm.
and we grew up on Voyager and TNG and DS9, we want to see that shit continued. And we want that to be the present timeline.
Well, and they did bring it back with Picard.
They did.
And that feels, and the success of that show and everything, I think that, like, just that kind of feels like the present to us still. Like, at the post-Picard era now feels like the present. And all those, and partly because all those characters that we love from that era that are the most known Star Trek characters to the public, they're all the age they are, and if they want to come back and stuff, like all the DS9 characters, all the TNG characters, all the Voyager characters, like, it just feels like they would bring them back, and it's going to be around that Picard timeline, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel the same way, and I hope they're able. I wish they would stick to, like, one time as sort of being the primary time, and these ancillary stories, I mean, prequels, things that are way in the future, whatever. It's all kind of I don't think this is great for storytelling in general. Star Wars is doing the same thing. I wouldn't put it past other canons to do the same thing, but, like, I don't think the whole, like, obviously you can do explore stories in one-off fashion that, like, explore a certain time period, but I think that not knowing when the present is a problem for these sorts of franchises.
Well, the present is 2024. That's our life, and
obviously,
this is fictional.
You know what we're talking about.
So,
well, that's not a response.
Well,
you know what I'm talking
about. If I can finish. I think there are lots of quote-unquote present timelines in Star Trek, and in this day and age where we have several different shows going on, it might be confusing to new viewers about what exactly is going on and what century they're in, and that's its own issue. As you know, and you're right, Star Wars is doing it as well. And as someone who doesn't follow Star Wars closely, it's confusing as shit, and I don't know when anything is taking place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great point. How are you bringing in new people by having several different things in different presents?
Well, that's not even my problem with it. My problem is the classic prequel problem.
Yeah.
Which is like, you it's impossible to have, like, stakes, because like, every time the Federation is at threat in Strange New Worlds, I know they make it. You know what I mean? It's like, unless they're doing a time, like a universe shift or whatever, which I don't think they're doing most of the time. So it's like, every time things are at threat, I just know they're not really going to happen. Like, you can't threaten Earth. You can't really threaten this. You can't, like, it just sort of feels like as long as you want it to be in the same canon, even loosely, as something like Next Generation, you can't do big swings on Strange New Worlds. Now, you can do big swings for certain characters, but you can't do big swings for, like, universe-ending stakes, which, like, we don't need all the time, but sometimes they're fun. Like, if you use them sparingly, like DS9 did, where it's like, oh, I don't know how this war is going to shake out. Like, at the end of the Dominion War, who are going to be friends of the Federation, you know? Like, the Romulans could have gone in on the other side, and there's all that interesting. So my point is not that, like, you need like not about bringing in new people. My point is, like, I like having a place in the timeline where I don't know anything past this point. All of the options are open. You know what I mean? Like, this could be the end of the Federation. And what does that do? This could be a war that threatens the very, like, fabric of existence. What would that mean? You know what I mean? Like, what if the Klingons and the Federation are no longer allies or whatever? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that, like, those things matter. But when you have this show that's 3,000 years in the future, it's like, well, we know that nothing major is going to happen, or, like, yeah, I don't know. And I mean, they've been a little, like, coy with too much detail for that reason, I think. But, like, you know, it's not like they sat down and gave us a timeline of everything that happened with the fall of the Federation.
Well, I do think that the quote-unquote present timeline of Star Trek at the moment is Discovery's time, especially since they're spinning off that show into Starfleet Academy, and it will also be in the 32nd century.
Yeah.
And I mean, Lower Decks is ending. Prodigy, who knows? We're going to get a second season. France already got a second season because they screwed up.
And Strange New Worlds fits in a very specific pocket time that like works for, prequel and being close to the original series.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're doing, because the 2009 prequel they've put on the slate, it might not happen. They've put Starfleet. They put another Abrams verse, Kelvin verse movie on the slate a couple years ago or last year or something, and then realized, we can't do that.
Yeah.
But importantly, they're also trying to sell Paramount.
Yeah. That's the big thing.
So they're trying to whip out all their dicks and go like, this is all the things we have, and whether or not that shakes out, well, we'll see. I won't believe it until I'm watching the end credits. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But, and then again, we've also got Section 31 coming. I don't know where that's going. I don't know what the point of that is, other than Michelle Yeoh, and we got to make sure it happens now.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, now that we have her under contract for it, and she's an Oscar winner, we got to get that show on going.
And it's just a movie now, and Ash Tyler's not in it, and God, I'm angry about that, because I love Ash Tyler, and I really wanted to see where he was going.
Me too.
I'll be damned. I want Ash Tyler somewhere in this universe, and if it means a prequel, I'll take it.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem with constant prequels, and that's why I'm exactly saying I think having a present is important, because like constant prequels breed more constant prequels, and like I just think the having a point where we don't know anything about the future is important to storytelling. Otherwise, it's constant dramatic irony. You know what I mean? Like that's everything. Dramatic irony is a great thing, but like constant dramatic irony is frustrating.
Well, on some level, but there are certain projects, certain storylines that like where I like knowing that certain things are going to play out. They have to play out a certain way, because I don't like big universe-ending storylines generally anyway. I'm much more in favor of like quiet story, like character-based stories, and like what this means for this, and like if we know this and this and this doesn't happen, what does that mean? Like who it's like, look at Pale Moonlight on DS9. Do you know the Dominion's gonna lose? You just know they are. There's no way they're gonna end Star Trek Deep Space Nine with the Dominion crushing Starfleet.
Yeah, but like whether the Romulans join or not is like going to set up the relationship between the Romulans and the Federation for the rest of Star Trek. You know what I mean?
That's right. But
so like
even
that episode matters so much to Star Trek. Like it informs everything that follows it,
Yes, but the most interesting thing about that episode is how Sisko is willing to compromise his own character.
Sure.
And his own morality.
Yeah, that's all great. But if you know the results of the thing, then you're watching him worry about a thing that you know the answer to, which is dramatic irony. That's my point. Like, you're watching, like, so let's say we know that we've already seen Picard, let's say, and we know that the Federation and the Romulans have these, like, groups that are working together to dismantle Borg stuff. You know what I mean? Like we know that they're sort of working together in the future, so we know they get together. So we're watching him fret in this insane way over something that we like know the answer to, and it makes us feel constantly like it makes us feel way less connected to his character in that episode, I think. Because we're watching it from this like God view where we know the future, instead of watching it from like in his shoes in that moment, and like we feel the stakes of that the first time we watch it.
Yeah, I'm not arguing it's not dramatic irony. I'm arguing that there's a real place for it, and it can be done beautifully and wonderfully. And just because it's a prequel does, there's plenty of territory to explore in a prequel.
I agree. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying like it is important to have a current timeline with the age of the actors and characters that are most known. I'm concerned that the current timeline is going to remain that sort of post TNG era, post DS9 era, and now Picard. Like that era is going to be our new like normal. because especially after the reception to Picard and like the viewership and everything. But then we now have this Discovery show that's like out in the future, sort of setting all these points for us of what's going on. But that may get undone. Like they may do, well, I don't know. Now that we know that Tilly's getting her own spin-off show with Starfleet Academy, like that may not get undone. I don't know.
Yeah, like I think, and I hope that we get Star Trek Legacy at some point.
Yeah, me too. But then I do feel like I hate to admit it, but like I feel like every episode that there are major stakes, I'll be going like, is this where the Federation starts messing up and we start seeing the downfall of the Federation? You know, like, is this the beginnings of the recession of the Federation? Like, go backsliding and losing planets? And it's just like, I wish I didn't know that was coming. You know, I want this like constant fear for the bad, that the bad thing's going to happen, and hope that the good thing's going to happen. Like that's storytelling. And then if you know certain points in the future, it just sort of gives you this like, whatever. I mean, it can be used to great effect. Obviously, we're watching Pike right now. We know his future. Well, kind of the point with Pike right now is like, he knows his future and he knows he can change it if he wants to, or he can try. And that's sort of the interesting part.
Yeah, but there will be huge repercussions.
Yes, indeed. Well, my friend, it has been a great time chatting with you. I hope everybody's having a good week. We'll be back with more Star Trek in the next week with the next episode of Discovery.
Yep, and I'm going to post another TOS review with me and Effie.
Sweet.
In between, so.
Good. Jolan True.
Oh, by the way, happy 250 episodes. We hit that last
Hey, thanks, man. Yay, 250 episodes. That's wild.
Live long and prosper and all that stuff. Whatever.
Yeah. We ended the 250 episodes so tightly.
This is 251, so it doesn't count.
Oh, okay. Well, sweet. Doesn't matter then.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.